Now that I had the videotape finished, tape 3 in this series, I was ready to design the research project. In my research, I have come to the conclusion that about 100 days is the minimal number of days that it takes to build a viable preferred circuit in the brain. And on each one of those 100 days, the minimal effort put forth should be at least 10 minutes of watching video. Now, I've arrived at those figures in a couple of ways. The first was from research done by Malcolm Gladwell and published in his book Outliers. Gladwell posits that it takes about 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert at something. I borrowed that number, 10,000, as the number of practice strokes, practice thoughts really, that I believe one needs to get good at thinking an idea. Since one can fit about 10 thoughts into 1 minute of video, then 10 minutes of video would yield approximately 100 strokes. 100 strokes times 100 days equals 10,000 strokes. Given my hypothesis that a practice stroke that involves watching a video of oneself speaking a preferred thought is roughly about 10 times more powerful than simply trying to think that thought, then 10,000 strokes, or practice thoughts really, seemed like a good starting point. The second piece of supporting evidence comes from my actual clients. I've been able to observe that at about 100 days of practice, 10 minutes a day at least, my clients report experiencing a significant change in the way they think. So my original goal when I was designing this project was to try and run the experiment for 100 days prior to taking my vacation. The only problem is that I'm currently running a booming solo private practice, and since I'm restricted to running this research project during the white spaces of my calendar, which is times when folks maybe cancel or don't show up for one reason or another, I really couldn't control the amount of time I would have to get the job done. So as it turned out, by the time I had the project ready to go, I was down to a little over a month away from my vacation. But you know, as research projects go, sometimes we run into unforeseen difficulties. Well, there's no way I was going to miss this opportunity, so I adjusted my 100 days target to 33 days. 1/3 of what I would normally think of as a change-producing period of time. I reasoned that what I would see in 33 days would be a pretty good indicator of what might have happened in the full 100 days, and that I could extrapolate from 33 days to predict what 100 days would have done. As fortune would have it, what I was at first disappointed about, only having 33 days, turned out to be a big bonus for the project. 33 days simply exceeded my wildest expectations. I was blown away. If what happened could be done in 33 days, imagine what 100 days would bring. I knew this process was powerful, but this was even more powerful than I had anticipated. So, 33 days prior to my departure, I began watching my tape. Now, my goal was to watch my tape a minimum of 10 minutes per day. Since my tape was 2 minutes long, that would be about 5 viewings per day minimum. To further bolster my claim that anybody can find 10 minutes to watch their tape in a day, I made sure to do this only during times that would otherwise be wasted time. I watched it on my iPod while I was on my exercise bike in the morning, and if I had an appointment running late, I would watch my videotape for 2 minutes before I would proceed to making any phone calls or answering emails. If I had a no-show or a cancellation, I would watch my tape first, do whatever I needed to do next, and then reserve the last 2 minutes before my next appointment to watch my tape again. Now, quite frankly, I'm about the busiest guy I know, and I found plenty of 2-minute pockets of white space in my day to watch my video at least 5 times. I'm sure that anybody can find at least that much time. This was actually a very intentional part of my design, because I get many clients who claim that they just don't have time to work on the tasks that are involved in restructuring thinking. And time is an issue for many people. Now, some people might argue, well, it's a priority issue. We can make the time if it's important enough. But I don't think that's the whole answer. So that's why I have been personally on a quest to develop the most efficient, the most time-sensitive methods available. And these methods are about as time-sensitive as one can possibly get. Now, there's no getting around the fact that you're going to have to spend some time up front getting the videotape produced and ready for use. But once that initial task is complete, the viewing of the tape itself only takes a minute or two. Another intention of the design was to validate the contribution of a phenomenon known as Hebbian plasticity, or more commonly as Hebb's rule. This phenomenon was first observed by Donald Hebb, a neuroscience researcher in the 70s. Hebb observed that neurons that were fired at the same time tended to connect in such a way that when one set of those connected neurons was fired, the other set would fire as well. He coined the axiom, neurons that fire together wire together. We now know through science that this is factual, hence Hebb's rule. The implication of this rule in my research is this. When we are developing the videotape, we are firing off multiple different circuits that control multiple functions in the brain: language comprehension, language composition, reading, writing, language processing from thought to the written word, processing from the written word to the spoken word, and then there's audio or auditory processing and visual processing. The sights and the sounds on a video are all being integrated into the brain at one time. The pictures on the video, the words, the music, these all have meaning in their own right. Thus, when they are all consolidated into a 1 or 2 minute video, the brain is literally integrating all of these circuits and firing them all at the same time. That's Hebb's rule. Hence, a concentrated viewing of a short video exponentially raises potential for change. I hypothesize that 10 minutes of viewing video is equal to at least an hour of mindfulness or meditation, probably way more than that. So I began watching my tape as often as I reasonably could, 33 days prior to leaving on vacation. My viewings actually began on May 3rd, 2014 and commenced on June 6th, 2014, the day we left on vacation. Now, during that time span, I viewed my 2-minute videotape an average of 7.6 times per day, or 15.3 minutes. Total viewings were 253 during that time span, for a total of 8.4 hours. That loosely translates into about 5,060 practice strokes, just about half of the recommended 10,000 that I think it takes to really own the thoughts, or more specifically, to make those thoughts most dominant in my brain. On June 6th, 2014, the day we left, I ended those viewings because I didn't want those viewings or any viewings during the vacation to skew my results or be at all responsible for contributing to performance on any specific day. This was a way that I found to control the results of preloading this information and isolate just that activity. I didn't watch the tape again. In fact, I didn't even access the video again until I pulled it out of the archives to put it into this series of tapes. On the tape that follows this one, OBX5, I will present the results of the experiment in detail, but let me just say right here that the vacation itself was simply phenomenal. I know that I have never enjoyed a vacation as much, not even close. And that speaks volumes, because I love vacations and I really thought I knew how to enjoy them before. So come along with me to the next tape, tape 5, and let's see what happens.